Hi everyone, welcome to episode 6 of the Field of Skye Knitting and Making podcast. My name is Rachel Loftus. I am an artist living in the Raleigh, North Carolina area with my husband and 2-year-old son Denali. I'm very excited to do this video. This is kind of a special episode where I'm going to go over my yarn stash. I want to try to do this every 3 months or so, just sort of for my own benefit, remind myself what I have, plan some things, plan some ways to use up the yarn over the next few months, just that I'm just keeping tabs on the amount of yarn I'm accumulating and keeping. So yeah, that should be fun. I'm gonna go over my projects with you really quickly right now, and then I'll do the yarn stash stuff afterwards. I just don't want this video to get too long, so we're gonna do projects now and then get to my yarn stash. So I hope you enjoy it, and thanks for being here. Okay, well, I think it's been a little less than 2 weeks from when I filmed last, so I didn't give myself as much time to make progress on my projects. I had a few goals that I mentioned at the end of my last episode that I did not achieve, which is honestly just fine. So we're just going to talk about where I'm at, and I'm not going to bring up any projects that I haven't actively worked on the last 2 weeks. So if you are wondering about something that I mentioned last time that you don't see today, just assume I haven't touched it. And but that I'm planning on getting to it very soon. I just have to clear off my plate a bit. So I have 4 projects I'm going to show you today, starting with my I'm totally skipping over the finished projects part because I don't have anything finished. So on to works in progress. I'm going to start with my Stegosaurus that I'm crocheting for my son. You've seen this guy a couple times now, so he still looks like this, and I have a little table next to me today, so that's nice. But I have a bunch more of the plates made that go on his back, so I'm doing all different colors, plates to add some color, and yeah, so I've made, I've made 8 plates, and I've got 5 more plates to make, and then the little group of tail spikes that goes at the end of the tail. Then I also have his 4 little legs done. So once I'm done with the last 5 plates and the little tail spikes, I'm going to sew it all on his body and he'll be done, and then Den can play with him. I've been prioritizing this a lot more. These plates they're really fast. Here's a little more detail of them. They're really fast. It's just single crochet. It's just single crochet around and around, but the shaping, every single row is different. So I'm following a pattern and just kind of, it's not really mindless. It's not hard, but it's not mindless. So it's been hard for me to get to these as quickly as I wanted to. But yeah, these have been fun and they're almost done. So that's the Stegosaurus. And that'll be my first crochet toy that I've ever made once I finish this guy. Yeah, it's kind of fun. All right, next up is this very long sock that y'all have seen several times as well. I am just knitting round and round and round, and once I run out of yarn, I've got this little ball left, and I think I've got a little more. Oh, yeah, I've got this much left. Right there, you see. Oh, they look so cute in my hand. Yeah, so I've got a few more little balls left, and then once it's all done, and then I'll end with another cuff at the end of this. I will cut it in half and add toes on the end and then do afterthought heels, and I'll have two socks, one pair of socks done. And this is my very portable, mindless knitting project right now. I just sort of bring it everywhere with me. I'm planning on going to get a septum piercing this afternoon, and I'm just gonna bring it with me to the piercing place while I wait. So that's been really great, just waiting knitting. And yeah, so that one's just about done. And oh, I guess I can show you this. This is my sweater, my magical sun sweater that, again, you've seen so many times. None of this is new, but I did finish the, I'll stand up. I did finish the bottom ribbing here, and I finished the button bands, and I have 4 buttons. And I'm hoping I put the top button far enough up, like that, so that I feel like I can wear it with nothing under it as just like a pullover kind of sweater when it's buttoned, and then, you know, I can unbutton it when I want it to have more of like an open cardigan feel. So all I have left on this, I've started this sleeve, but I don't like how this is looking. So I'm actually gonna rip this back, and I think I'm actually gonna design an Intarsia pattern for the sleeves that kind of goes along with what's on the back. So you've seen this back a million times, but you see this swirl right here? So I'm gonna echo that swirl on the sleeve and just sort of like do like a swirl up with my leftover, I think I'm gonna use green yarn for the swirl, and then I'll have brown cuffs to match this, and the rest of the sleeve will be this white. So it'll be white, lime green, like this color green, white, lime green, and brown in the sleeve, and the swirl will be mostly the lime green. So yeah, I'm excited about that, but because I have to design that next section and kind of figure out you know, how many stitches and knit it flat and then sew it up, I've stalled out a little bit on this sweater. I'm still enjoying it, but I just haven't had a chance to do that design yet. So I can't knit on it until I have all that laid out. But yeah, but it's very cozy so far. It just doesn't have sleeves. And I'm excited to keep working on this. All right, and then the last project I want to show you, I know I'm rushing through these. The last one I want to show you is a new one. I mentioned it in my last video, but I hadn't started it yet, and it is a onesie for a friend's baby who is turning 1 this month. Her birthday's at the end of the month, April 30th, and she's so small. She was born as a micro preemie, and she still wears 3-month clothing as an almost 1-year-old. She's just like so precious. But yeah, so I'm making her a little onesie, and if you're watching this, Tracy, skip over this part if you don't want it to be a surprise. But I wanted to show you how pretty my swatch was. So I wanted to do something where I took a bunch of my smaller mini skeins of fingering weight and combined them. I asked, Tracy's the mom, I asked her what colors her daughter likes, and she said bright colors, pinks, blues, and greens is what she said. So this is what I had that kind of matched that request. And I'll put this up here so you can see it better. So it's fingering weight yarn held double, but what I've done is, so I started up here with 2 different pinks, and then when I switched colors, I kept one of the pinks and just switched one of the yarns, so that each time I switch, I'm only switching one color, and it just sort of like melts into the next one. This one's not as melted because I used
I think I actually used two different, no I didn't. This one's not as melted because I changed my main color. But yeah, so that's been fun. It feels like I'm blending yarn, which is fun for an artist. I used to be a watercolor, well, I guess I still am a watercolor painter, but blending colors was always my favorite part of painting, and that's what this feels like, is it's just like yarn painting. So this is my swatch, and I have done this much of it. So this is almost like a more purpley pink, but I ended up going with this color because I just had a better amount of it. And then I went into some more of these, like, this is all hand dyed fingering weight yarn, but some of these more multicolors. And then I've got some of this green to add in, some more of this lime green. And then just look at this. Isn't that beautiful? Look at that. So I just love that so much. And I'm excited to see how combining this with the solids, this is the pinky purple solid I'm using, how this will kind of go with this. I think it goes really great with this. And then it also will look really pretty with the green. So yeah, I'm excited to keep going on this, and hopefully she likes it. But I have to finish this by the end of the month. So you will see it again in the next podcast episode probably, but then not again. So I'm hoping to have it done by the next episode so you can see it finished. Otherwise, I might have to post a picture of it on the baby, or the little 1-year-old. What do you call a very small 1-year-old? She's not a baby anymore, right? But yeah, so this one's really special to me. I love that little girl. I love her mom. And I'm excited to knit for them. I don't knit for just anyone. I knit for only very special people and also people I know that will actually take care of what I'm making them. Okay, well that's it. Those are my 4 main projects I'm working on: the Stegosaurus, this onesie, my sock, and this sweater. And you've seen all of those now. So let's get to my yarn stash. So I do want to say, I know I've mentioned before on my channel that I do consider myself a minimalist, and what that means to me is that I'm highly intentional with what I purchase and bring into my life. I'm, you know, all of this is not done perfectly, but I attempt to be very intentional with what I bring into my life, and also intentional with how I spend my time and my energy. So that obviously is going to have a big impact on any kind of hobbies I have or creative projects, even down to what I choose to make. Like, I work really hard at not just following trends. Nothing wrong with trends, but I don't want to make something just because it's trendy. I want to make sure that I actually do love it. And that helps me a lot with how I choose to buy yarn and other materials, because I just buy for projects. You'll see, I'll explain this more as I go through my yarn, but I've got 2 kind of categories for where my yarn purchasing lands. Does that make sense? So I buy yarn based on projects I want to make with them, or I buy yarn based on the colors that I want to play with. So I have kind of like a, you know, I make clothing, so I want to make sure I'm buying yarn that I would wear in a piece of clothing. So the colors, the texture, the actual like material it's made out of, make sure I want it on my skin. And then also for yarn that I just want to like play with colors next to each other. For those yarns, I think color is much more my priority versus the material and the how it feels, because I'm not expecting to have to wear it. So I have a lot of ideas for art that I want to make, like wall hanging type art that I want to make with yarn. And I've spent the past few months going to thrift stores and buying acrylic yarns for that purpose. Because they're cheaper, at thrift stores sometimes. Honestly, thrift stores aren't nearly as cheap as they used to be, but because they're cheaper, but also because usually you can get full skeins, full unused skeins, but a lot of times you can get just like a bag of smaller used balls of yarn that are leftovers from projects. And I really love that because then I can get more of like a color spectrum and a smaller amount of yarn versus like an entire skein of one color that, you know, I'm getting because I need to have some yellows, for example, in my palette, you know, just like you'd buy yellow paint, but I don't necessarily want to make an entire project out of just yellow. Maybe I do, maybe I don't, but I like having kind of the mix. Going to the thrift store gives me the opportunity to have a mix of lots of different colors, but not have like full-size skeins, because I don't have a lot of storage. I don't want to just hold on to yarn that I'm not actively using, at least for long, like years and years, really long periods of time. And yeah, but I also do recognize that it's good for my creativity to have some sort of a stash. So as a minimalist, my leaning is to have like the least amount possible. But, and I have been there before. I've been there where I just had like I'm working on one project and I've only got yarn for that one project essentially. But then there's been plenty of times where I felt very stifled by that creatively because I might have an idea for something, but then no yarn to play with to help me even like sketch out an idea, do a swatch or whatever. So I've kind of grown, I think I've kind of like matured in my minimalism in a bit, to where I've allowed myself to accumulate a little bit more, still intentionally, but a little bit more to where I can hold on to a certain amount. It doesn't feel overwhelming, but a certain amount that will still allow me to be flexible with my creativity, because you can't always predict what you're gonna feel like making, or you know, I want to make sure that if I have an idea, I don't feel like I have to go out and buy like brand new full skeins just to do, you know, because that adds pressure to whatever the idea is. Anyways, so going to thrift stores and getting acrylic yarns, doesn't have to be acrylic. I'm not like specifically looking for acrylic, but just yarns that I love the colors of to play with has been really, really fun. A fun creative challenge, and also just a way for me to hold on to a certain amount of yarn kind of guilt-free. Not that there ever should be guilt associated with that, but for me, there has been in the past where I've just like bought something brand new and never used it. So I like that I'm reusing something that someone else didn't need and getting to be kind of creative and flexible with it. Anyways, long ramble over. I'll show you what I have, and yeah, let me know if you have any questions about that, or if I should, I'm sure it will come up in future videos, because it's definitely a process, how I'm working through balancing my minimalism with my creativity. I really do think they go hand in hand very, very well, but it's not usually how people think. Like, I'm still just having to figure it out, what that looks like for me. So anyways, it's in process, but it's been fun. Okay, so the categories of yarn I have, to start with that, categories of yarn is I have a bin, these are my bins. I have a bin of acrylic worsted weight yarns and thinner. So anything from, I don't think I have any fingering weight acrylics, but anything from fingering up to worsted acrylic is in here. And then I have chunkier acrylics that I probably won't knit anything with, but I'm interested in potentially weaving or even working them into embroidery projects. So that's what this is. And honestly, I don't have nearly as much of the chunky, but because they are so big, like the skeins are big, they had to have a big tub too. And then I've got this with cotton in it. I have this bag that I was just given by my mother-in-law. She very sweetly picked this up and surprised me with it off a buy-sell trade group she's in. And actually, I hope she's not watching. Actually, I'm planning on just sort of keeping it together in this bag and making her a blanket for Christmas this year. So that, because this isn't like colors that I love to work with, but it is really nice blanket yarn. And this bag is full of like this soft, kind of chunky yarn that would make a good blanket. And you know, she gave this to me, and I think these colors would match her home. So I'm gonna make a gift for her with it. So I'm just saying that because I'm keeping them separate from my other chunky acrylics. And then I've got this bin where all my nicer wools live in. I think it's pretty much all hand-dyed or just merino. I think it's all merino except for this guy. This is Highland wool. But yeah, so it's all just like my nicer wools that, you know, don't get as big of a tub because I can't afford very much of it. And yeah, so I can talk more about the specific colors and stuff I'm using. And oh yeah, as you can see, I still have my knitting needles attached. I need to pull them out. Okay, I'm gonna start with the acrylics because that's what I have the most of. Or actually, you know what? No. I'm gonna start with what I have the least of and work my way up to acrylics. So I have the least amount of cotton. So I'm just gonna show you my little bucket of cotton. And all of this I got from thrift store, different times, thrifting. But this is what I have. A lot of it is, oops, I would say probably about half of it is this like the Sugar and Cream brand that's really great for dishcloths. And I do like making dishcloths. I plan on using it for that. And then I also have, this is a more recent thrift store find. I got this in a bag along with this and this yellow. And I think I'm going to, they're very soft. And I think I might actually make myself a garment with these. Yeah, so dishcloth, I have some garment cotton, and then I also got this from the thrift store. It's just like a little sampling of tiny Lion Brand cotton yarns. I didn't even know Lion Brand had cotton, but they might be old. I don't know. So I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with these, but I think they would make good, they'd make really great just like details on stuff, since there's just a little bit of it. So yeah, that's my cotton. I don't use a ton of cotton, but I like having it for very specific purposes. And this is just like the right amount to me. Like I've got options here, but not as much as, you know, I don't have like too much to use based on my own making habits. These are my wools, and I will show you a few of these specifically because I went to Carolina Fiber Fest in Raleigh a couple weeks ago, and it was so fun. It was my first time going, and I got several new, I met some new yarn dyers new to me, and got some wool from them. I'm really excited about it. So I got 3 of these from Queen's Yarn Boutique, and it's 100% superwash merino wool, and this is called Delirious DK, and this color is called Bronzer, and it's so pretty. And I got this, and I got this from her as well, to kind of go together. And I want to make, pretty sure I want to make a tank top with these. So that's going to be maybe a birthday cast on in July. I've got some plans for the next few months that we can talk about when I'm done showing you yarn. But yeah, so I got that with the intention to make a tank top. We'll see what happens with it. And then I got 4 of these blues. 4 of these blues to make a cardigan with. I might change my mind on what I use these for, but that was my initial plan for that, from Fiber Seed, and this is their Sprout DK. Sorry if that's backwards. It looks backwards to me, but I don't know if it's actually backwards to you in the video. This is washable American merino wool with 10% nylon. So, yeah, I really liked this color blue. It's not quite as royal as I like. This is really closer to my favorite royal. See, it's just like a little bit deeper. Let me see if I can focus. Yeah, so, and I have more of this coming in this brand. So I was actually kind of thinking that even though they're slightly different, I would use them in a cardigan and maybe fade, like use this lighter blue and fade into the darker blue, like down the bottom of the cardigan and down the bottom of the sleeves, just to incorporate this blue too. And it would just make a beautiful blue jacket for me. I'm just really into this blue right now. So yeah, and then the rest of this is for the most part leftovers from this sweater. I mean, this is a skein of Madeline Tosh that I bought sometime last year, and just, I love it. I mean, look how beautiful, but I just haven't found a use for it yet. I'm hoping to very soon, but I'm not sure with this one what to do. And then the rest of these are just leftovers from projects that I pull from when I need, you know, some specific color. This, actually, I think I've mentioned, I'm doing more embroidery on the back of this sweater once it's completely done and I've blocked it. And I'm using these colors. So that's what these are for, these scraps. I've got this like rusty red, this kind of like hot pink magenta, and this bright orange. So this is, all 3 of these colors are going in the middle of the sun that's on the back of my sweater, which is cool. I'm excited about that. So that'll use up some of these scraps too. And then, yeah, I'm just gonna have fun with the rest of them. I actually love having scraps because I can just like work them into a project and they just make a little like fun pop somewhere. But yeah, I wanted to show you this. So this like really pretty, I guess it's like a brownish, caramel, reddish something. I don't know what it is, but based on how it smells and how it feels, it looks like merino wool, like superwash merino wool. It smells like superwash. But I found this at the thrift store. It was just like in one of the bags with a bunch of balls of acrylic yarn. And I saw it through the bag and I was like, it doesn't even matter what the other balls are. I need this, because it was like $6. And I think this is like 75 grams of what looks like DK superwash wool, which is the majority of what I use when I get wool. So yeah, I was very excited about this. You never know what you can find at a thrift store, right? So yeah, so that's my current wool bucket. Let me get all these back in here. So I have just this big collection of acrylic yarns, and I just kind of treat it like, you know, just like a bucket of paint. And I'm just like, okay, I want to make this design. Let's pick a palette and go for it. And so that's been really fun for me. I do have some plans for some of it. Like I got these greens the other day at the thrift store to make a T-Rex toy for a friend. I have, you know, I need to pick a few more colors for the Stegosaurus plates. They're all different colors. I need to pick a few more colors for that. Look at this pretty bright color. I like this bright one. So yeah, it's not like I have no plans for this, but I didn't buy them. The majority of these I didn't buy with a plan. It's just like, oh, I like that color and I don't have a lot of it. So, you know, I like having a full rainbow as much as I can. And, yeah, I actually might, one of my next scrappy projects, might be some sort of sweater or cardigan made out of all the like softest acrylic yarns, like the ones that I feel like I could wear that aren't scratchy, and just get a bunch of them and design something fun with whatever the colors are that I have. So that's honestly why I like having just like a bucket of cheap acrylic yarns. I love that they were thrifted. That just adds another element of like, I'm reusing something that won't get thrown away, because acrylic is, you know, plastic. And I'm also really stimulating my creative juices and learning skills and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So it's been really fun to just like have a bucket of play yarn. And I love that even within my minimalism journey, it's taken me here to where I can feel like I'm still being really intentional, but also spontaneous with creating and playing. I think that's just so important with no matter what art form you're doing. So yeah, and I know it's very satisfying for people to hear numbers. So I did count all of my skeins in each category, and I will tell you them all at the end, but I wanted you to have a visual for what I'm keeping. So here's all my worsted weight acrylics. Now let me show you my chunky yarn. I've got some pretty fun chunky yarn, so I'm excited for you to see it. In addition to this blanket yarn, which I just showed you, it's a bunch of this. I have this bin, same size of chunky yarn. And like I said, it's more just for art more than it is for clothing. I'd really like to learn to weave in the future. So I have this like pure virgin wool yarn that's honestly very, very scratchy. Yeah, it's very scratchy. I was seeing if I could see if it smelled like a sheep. But it's, yeah, and it's barely even spun. It's like more like scratchy roving yarn, and I think it'll be fine in like a weaving. It would provide a nice base. And this thing was only like $15 for all this wool. So I picked it up and yeah, see the price tag right there. I picked it up and yeah, I've been holding on to it, hoping to use it for some art. I like having some neutral. I do love color, but I like having neutrals as a base. Just, you know, blank canvas almost. So yeah, there's that. And then, oh my gosh, one of my most favorite thrift store finds I got last Friday? I went to the thrift store, and look at this color. I feel like I'm always looking for some really good hot pinks, and it's always either like more fuchsia or magenta, or it's more like orangey, which are beautiful too. But I've just like really wanted this perfect hot pink yarn, and I found it, and it's like crazy and loopy, and I don't know what I'm gonna do with it, but I'm very excited about it. It's by Red Heart. I've never seen it before, Red Heart Swerve. But again, I also just like don't go to craft stores and get Red Heart yarn, so I don't know, maybe this is normal, but I was so excited to find these. I actually have some plans to use this in an embroidery I'm working on as like some details on the bird. I'm embroidering a toucan, but we'll see. And then along with that, it's just more like, you know, kind of chunkier, scratchy looking yarns, but I like the colors and some of the, you know, especially this one. Look at the flecks of color in there is really fun. I've actually already used this yarn on a sweater I made for Den that y'all saw a few months ago was that brown sweater with the crocheted squiggles. I called it his squiggle sweater. I used this for one set of the squiggles, and it was great because even though it's like really scratchy, the color is so beautiful and the texture of it, like this twist, is so cool that it added a lot of really fun texture to the sweater, but he's not gonna feel any of it because it's not like right up against his skin. So that's like the main purpose of some of these chunkier funky yarns, is like it's not to make an entire garment out of, but if I put embellishments on it, it can make something really interesting without needing to rely on like a super high quality material to make up the entire thing. Does that make sense? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if any of this podcast is gonna make sense. I'm very much just like in my head talking, so hopefully you're getting something out of this. But yeah, see, look at this pretty turquoisey I have. Another thing too is I'm kind of coming out of, like stylistically, I'm coming out of the whole minimalism means you only wear neutrals thing. And because that's sort of where I went initially when I started pursuing just more intentionality and minimalism in my life. I like took out the color of everything. And I think a lot of people do that and they stay there. If that works for them, that's great. But even like aesthetically in my home, everything went to all of a sudden like white and gray. And I have been, and then my clothing went to like whites and blacks, and which honestly, again, works for some people and that's fine. But I've just gotten so bored with it. And you can be a minimalism and be crazy about color. So I'm coming out of that like everything needs to be neutral thing and just trying color. And even though, like, for example, I was thinking about it because this turquoise isn't necessarily a color that I love even now. I mean, I think it's beautiful, but it's not really like my style even now. But I think when I get stuff like this and use it in something, it's a good way to just practice trying colors that I wouldn't normally use, which is why, again, I'm thrifting this yarn, so there's just like not very much pressure on the result of it. It's more about like me playing, having something to play with, and not needing to always create something like perfectly beautiful. I'm just, yeah. Sorry, I just got distracted. This is actually not acrylic. This says that this is 85% wool and 15% mohair. Called Lamb's Pride. Yeah, it smells kind of sheepy. Anyways, sorry, I'm getting distracted. So that's my chunky yarn. Oh, one thing I did not mention that I do have is a scrap bucket. So I don't keep like tiny little balls of leftover yarn in with the bigger skeins because they would just get lost and make a mess. So I have a separate scrap bucket that has all my scraps, and it's nice to just like have a bucket I can throw them in and not like, I don't have to worry about making a decision about like, oh, is this long enough to keep or whatever. It all just goes in here. And if one day it ever fills up, then I can make a decision about what I keep, because I'd like to contain it to just this bucket. But I also put my gauge swatches in here. So, you know, I made this swatch for the little onesie, and it's beautiful. It's almost just like a work of art in and of itself, but it's so little yarn that I don't know that it'd be worth the work to just like take the yarn out. Plus, I don't usually want to do that immediately anyways. So all my gauge swatches go in this bucket too, and I'm actually hoping to make some sort of patchwork garment with my gauge swatches. Maybe just like pair ones together that work really well together and are out of similar materials. So yeah, so And that helps me feel like I'm not wasting yarn when I'm doing this, when I'm making a gauge swatch, which definitely is not a waste regardless. But if I were just tossing this at the end of the project, that would make me really sad. So they all go in this bucket, and anytime I'm just like, oh, I just need like a hit of a bright color, I'll just look in the scrap bucket and find like a little ball of some orange or a little ball of some bright blue. And it's been really nice to just kind of have like a place to put those scraps. So yeah, I think that's it. So I can tell you real quick the numbers if you want to know. But, oh wait, you know what? I need to do some quick math because I don't have a full total. Hold on one second. Okay, so I've got 58. Oh, also, when I have like tiny balls, several balls of all the same color, I just counted those as one. If I have like a half skein, like half skeins, I count as one only if one whole ball. If I have you know, just the one, like if I have one skein of orange and that's all I have, it's just one. But if I had like one skein of orange and a bunch of little balls of orange, that's all one. Does that make sense? But if it's at least like more than a 10-gram ball of yarn, it counts because I put everything less than 10 grams of a color in my scrap bucket. So I didn't count any of my scraps. That would be dumb. But anything that's in here that deserves a place in here because it's big enough gets counted as one ball of yarn. Hopefully that made sense. So I have 58 skeins of acrylic, worsted weight, or thinner yarns. I have 33 skeins or balls of heavier, chunky wool and acrylic. There's actually some wool in here. And that includes this blanket yarn too in there. So 33 chunky. And then I have 14 balls of cotton yarn, and I have 22 skeins of wool, so my nicer merino wool. And that total is 127. So I've got 127 balls of yarn. And I thought about like, do I want a goal to like go down by a certain amount or something? Because that's fun. That's fun to have like a little challenge to do. And you know, I wouldn't mind these boxes fitting a little bit better. But honestly, that's not helpful for me because then I get all wrapped up in the number and not on actually creating something I want to make. So I'm just gonna work really hard to not accumulate any more yarn and work from stash. I have a lot of projects that I've got all the yarn for. So if I could just focus on not accumulating anymore and just work from stash, it'll just take care of itself. So, so yeah, that's where we're at. Goals for the next couple months are to, so I had an idea to take a break from knitting for a month in an effort to focus more on some of the other art forms that I've been really wanting to get to and have ideas for, but knitting's so comfortable, so I just kind of gravitate towards knitting all the time, which, you know, is not a problem, but I really do think I want to challenge myself to take a step back from knitting and try some of the embroidery. I don't think I'm going to try weaving yet because I don't have like a good setup for that, but my embroidery specifically and some of the sewing, mending projects I've just been dying to get to that I haven't, I would like to prioritize. So I've decided, so what's today, April 7th, I want to spend the rest of April and the month of May finishing up my what feels like my most important knitting projects, which to me are this sweater, the onesie for my friend's daughter, and the framework bralette that I didn't mention today because I haven't made any progress on it. So those 3 knitting projects I really want. Like, I really want the sweater done so I can wear it. I want the framework bralette done so I can wear it. And then of course the onesie is a gift, so that needs to be done by the end of April anyways. So I would like to just have those 3 projects, focus on those 3 projects, get them done by the end of May, which I think is very doable. And then the month of June, take off from knitting and work on my more sewing, mending, embroidery projects. So that's how I'm feeling now. I had that idea last night, and I think it would really motivate me to, 1, get these knitting projects done, but also feel okay about kind of setting aside the other projects because I know I have June to work on them. Like, I'm gonna prioritize them in June. So, cause I've just like really wanted to get back to my embroidery, but I also want to knit. So I think I just need to like separate them a bit, get my knitting done, and then I can kind of just like dive into embroidery. And who knows, maybe I'll keep embroidering for months after that and whatever, but we'll just see what happens at the end of June. And then my birthday is in July. So that's fun for like, you know, if I want to do a special birthday project or get myself some new yarn for my birthday and cast on a new thing. Honestly, what I'd like to do for my birthday is cast on one of these, either this tank top or this cardigan, if that's what I end up doing with it. Just because I got these as like a special treat for myself. So I would really like to maybe start one of these in June or July, I mean, but I don't want to start them with these knitting projects still on the needles, if that makes sense. So we'll see at the end of April, May, June. So that's April, May, June is the next quarter. So I'll kind of review that, how that's going at the end of June. But of course you'll see, still trying to upload these podcast episodes twice a month. You'll see how that's going as we go along. And I think that's it for today. So thank you so much for watching. Thanks for sticking through my rambling, and I really appreciate you. Comment below if you have any questions about anything, or if I can help you with anything I've mentioned, and I will see you in the next one.